So what's it like going to a horror writers convention? It's pretty awesome. And I want to just say thank you to all the people in Necon that totally made me feel at home, even though this was my first year. And welcome back to the heart of the stories we tell, a series where I spend way too much time thinking about what makes a story. And today's episode is my trip to Rhode Island's Camp Necon. So let me just start off by saying what Camp Necon really is. It's an extended family. It's a large group of writers who get together every year and are supporting each other, and it's all thanks to the Booth family. So again, thank you very much, everyone who made me feel welcome. I showed up the first day, not knowing exactly what to expect, thinking that this was going to be like a comic convention, a gaming convention, maybe get some books signed by people over some nice velvet rope. But that wasn't it at all. In fact, I sat down and had a beer with some of the great writers that were there. You could just walk up and talk to people. We were all there for the same thing. A little bit of unwinding, and a whole lot of just talking about what makes stories stories. And if you've been watching me at all, you know that's right up my alley. Let me just say I didn't get discovered. There was no big aha and selling my book moment, but that's okay. What I did do was make friends, and those friends, I hope, will stay with me year after year as we go through this. Now, they had panels, and they had what they call coffee clutches, and the whole place was just on one track. There wasn't a lot of, oh, you missed this because you were at that. Oh, choose which panel do you want to see. Do you want to see the one on horror comics or the one on horror movies? Pretty much everything was pretty straightforward. So let me start at the beginning and tell you about each day in order. Thursday morning, I packed up the rest of my stuff into my best friend's car, and we drove. He's been going there for 7 years, so I knew that he was kind of my in. He already knew these people, but when I got there, everyone was so nice right away, right from check-in, to the point where award-winning authors were coming up and giving me a hug and saying, hey, good for you to be here. Hopefully we can get to know you better. The first day, the only thing that was really on the schedule was the newbie meeting. There were about 40 of us this year. Normally, I guess they have a few less. Once we left there, they had what they called a soggy roast. And that was just basically some free hot dogs, and we had a little bit of a potluck social where everyone brought a little something, and we all sat and talked about where we were in the industry, about what movies we'd seen, what books we've read, gossiped a little bit. In general, it felt like being in part of that in-clique in high school. So Friday morning started, and we had these little coffee round tables. The first one was the pitfalls of self-publishing, and I can tell you it scared the hell out of me. It was great information, but as someone who hasn't yet been picked up as a published author, I have considered it many times, and they helped walk through exactly what the dangers and what you need to do, and the fact that it's a full-time job and then some. Just the amount of work I've put into this YouTube channel tells me that they're right about that. They told us all about how to price our books if we do it, how much promotional information we need. They did also do a great job at making it sound very daunting. I take my hat off to everyone who self-publishes. In fact, that's one of the most amazing people I met there. I met a young woman who I think, if you do the math, is technically young enough to be my daughter, and she was self-published at the age of 13. The age of 13, I don't think I knew what the word published actually meant. The second panel we had for that day was all about films, specifically a year in review. What movies did they talk about? Well, there were a lot of them. Things like The Voices, He Never Died, Green Room, Deathgasm, The Witch, Swiss Army Man, They Look Like People, and just in general, I have to say a big shout out to the Cinema Knife Fight people, because they're the ones that brought most of that to us. The third one was the one that I walked away with just about 35 books listed in, because those were books in review. And I just want to pull a couple of them out here. I haven't read them yet because, well, I just got back. But if they're half as good as these people made it sound, they're ones that everyone should be checking out. Starting with Hex, the story of a town possessed by a witch. Neil Gaiman's Views from the Cheap Seat, not just this year, but multiple, The Black Wings of Cthulhu. If you're into mythos stuff, you should definitely check that stuff out. And then a young adult one known as The Rest of Us Just Live Here. And I think I'm going to save that one because I think I might actually do a whole review on it once I read it. But we shall see. And from there we went to lunch, and from lunch we started doing panels. Now, the difference between a panel and a coffee sit-around is that in the panels they're just up there talking, and we had some amazing guests. So I spent all of Friday and most of Saturday listening to people that have a lot more experience than I do in these things talk about all different types of stories, and every one of them gave me ideas that I'm going to try to put forward as we go forward with this. However, just to name down a few, is the apocalypse the breakdown of a system, or is it just the end of something? Are heroes heroes because they're heroes, or only heroes if they come out of ordinary situations? Now, I could go on and on. However, best things I got was a question that they didn't have an answer for that I think I do. What do Cthulhu cultists get out of the end of the world? And an example that a writer that goes by the name Bracken had. He told a story about a basic thriller. Girl's walking to her family's house, runs across a stalker. We, the audience, know he's a crazy stalker. She doesn't yet. He tells her, no, you don't want to go this way, you want to go that way. She continues on. He sneaks away, kills her family before she gets there, lays an ambush and a trap. When she gets there, he tries to kill her, and that's the main thrust of the story. What is that? Well, that's Little Red Riding Hood. So, thank you very much for giving me a new insight into exactly what the first thrillers were. You have to remember we've been telling stories since time immemorial, and these people have studied these stories far better than I have. Even now, as I flip through my notes, there's 100 things I could talk about. There was a panel on the mental and physical damage, and what books get it right and what books get it wrong, and how much you can suspend your disbelief. There was also one on pacing, and the pacing one was actually the one where Bracken McLeod gave the Little Red Riding Hood example, but he also used Homer's Odyssey as an example. I also, on a personal note, got to meet a personal hero of mine. Rich Dansky ran a Wraith the Oblivion game, and for those of you that don't know, he's doing the 20th anniversary Wraith the Oblivion, so I'm literally playing the game with the guy who's making it, and it's not even out yet. We raised some money for charity, we had some fun, we had some drinks, and I learned a lot. So, next year, if they'll have me back, I'd love to go, and maybe I'll put another one of these videos up then, letting you know how it went then, and in the meantime, if you want to hear all of the crazy stuff going on my mind, subscribe to my channel, and I do have one other thing that may be an iron in the fire, and if so, it's for a good cause too, like those charities, so I will definitely, once it materializes into something, even if my story doesn't end up in it, let you know so that you can help out. As we walk through the heart of the stories we tell, I'm learning as much as anyone else. In fact, I think maybe that's the most important part of the heart of every story, learning something, taking a new experience in. But for now, I hope you have a good night. I'm going to try to get my sleep schedule back online. However, one other thing that Necon did for me was it got me on Facebook. So, I'm starting up a Facebook group for the Heart of the Stories we tell. So I'm going to put a link in the description for that as well from here on out. In the meantime, I hope you all enjoy stories, a poem, a novel, a movie, a limerick, a song, whatever your chosen medium is. Thank you and good night.